Why does the Queen, with virtually unlimited access to the entire vault of British crown jewels, choose to wear the same, relatively modest, personal tiara again and again? Do you think it's simply a matter of taste? If so, you'd be profoundly mistaken. Behind the dazzling sparkle of those diamonds lies a hidden story, one Buckingham Palace would much prefer to keep under wraps. It's a tale woven with threads of illicit royal love and the wealth it generated, of a mysterious vanishing act spanning an entire generation, and of a quiet yet utterly defiant message Camilla sends to the entire royal family every single time she chooses this very tiara. So, get comfortable and make sure to watch this video all the way to the very end. A genuine sensation awaits you. Right now, we're going to peel back the layers of royal protocol to reveal the raw emotion and discover precisely why the cubit shand tiara holds more significance for Queen Camilla than all the treasures of the House of Windsor combined. To truly grasp the intricate history of this tiara, we must transport ourselves back to London in the early years of the 20th century. This was the world of the Edwardian era, a gilded age defined by ostentatious luxury, the most stringent court etiquette, and the lingering echoes of the Belle Époque before the world was irrevocably reshaped by the thunderous guns of World War I. In such a society, a tiara was far more than a mere ornament. It was a veritable passport, an indispensable accessory for any married lady at court, signifying her family's exalted status and her own precise place within the intricate hierarchy of British aristocracy. It was within this glittering milieu that the Keppel family truly shone. Their name was whispered with reverent awe in every high society salon, for the family's matriarch, the incomparable Alice Keppel, was far more than a mere socialite. She was the trusted confidant, a shrewd advisor, and the great last love of King Edward VII. This singular position bestowed upon the family not only immense wealth, but also a unique, quasi-royal standing, one that demanded perpetual validation through impeccable taste and the corresponding brilliance of their carefully selected jewels. The tiara itself was commissioned for Alice's daughter, Sonia Keppel, the future grandmother of Queen Camilla. As Sonia made her debut in society and prepared for her marriage to the Honourable Roland Cubitt, son of Baron Ashcombe, her family faced the delicate task of selecting the paramount bridal adornment. The gift needed to be magnificent, certainly, yet simultaneously tactful. It had to unmistakably signal the family's wealth and close ties to the throne, but under no circumstances could it ever appear to compete with the official regalia of the reigning dynasty. The challenge was a subtle one: to craft a masterpiece that would speak volumes of high standing without ever shouting about it. This explains why a delicate and elegant floral motif was chosen, rather than a strict, imposing imperial design. It was a jeweled embodiment of youth, freshness, and aristocratic refinement, perfectly aligned with the era's prevailing fashion for light, airy adornments reminiscent of delicate floral garlands. While history has not preserved the name of the specific jeweler or the esteemed house that created this tiara, its distinctive style speaks volumes. It is clearly the work of a grand master, a virtuoso in the garland style that renowned houses like Cartier and Boucheron had popularized. Its lightweight platinum frame, almost entirely hidden beneath a dazzling cascade of diamonds, masterfully created the illusion of a weightless floral wreath, seemingly hovering effortlessly in its wearer's hair. Thus, not merely an exquisite ornament came into being, but a meticulously crafted message. From its very inception, the cubit shand tiara served as a bold declaration of a family's status, one that possessed impeccable taste, substantial wealth, and undeniable influence, yet keenly understood the unspoken boundaries of propriety. It quickly became a lasting symbol of elegance and understated luxury, qualities its most celebrated wearer would come to embody a century later. Let's examine this tiara as only its custodians and wearers ever do, by holding it in our hands. It's not a cumbersome crown of power, but rather a dream of a summer garden, frozen in diamonds and platinum. Its entire construction is a veritable anthem to the garland style, which reigned supreme in the jewelry artistry of the Belle Époque. The jeweler eschewed a heavy gold base in favor of platinum. This metal, both strong and light, allowed for the creation of an almost invisible framework upon which dozens of diamonds shimmer, like dewdrops suspended on a spider web. At the heart of the composition, stylized blossoms unfurl, reminiscent of either wild roses or apple blossoms. Each individual petal is an old-cut diamond, chosen with incredible meticulousness to collectively form a vibrant, iridescent surface. The central elements of these flowers are marked by larger stones, which burst into brilliant fire with the slightest movement of the wearer's head. These floral motifs are not isolated. They are intricately interwoven with delicate branches and leaves that form a dense, yet remarkably airy wreath, completing the entire design. It is precisely in this airiness that the master's greatest secret lies. The tiara is crafted using the technique of openwork, or filigree. Here, the metal isn't a solid wall, but the finest lace, allowing light to penetrate the piece from every angle. Because of this, the diamonds don't just reflect light. They breathe it in, they play with it, creating the illusion of a living shimmer. This isn't the cold gleam of state regalia, it's a warm, delicate radiance. Beneath its apparent fragility also lies ingenious engineering. If you look closely at the central element, you might notice that it is slightly elevated above the rest. This is a clear indication that the tiara was convertible. It could be detached from its special frame, a band-like base, and worn as a close-fitting necklace. This versatility was the ultimate Edwardian chic. A single piece of jewelry for two distinct occasions, perhaps a formal court ball and a more intimate evening reception. This is why, when we speak of the cubit shand tiara, we are not talking about its weight in carats, but about its feeling. This adornment doesn't weigh the head down with the gravity of imperial protocol. It is light, almost weightless. You can imagine it warm to the touch, not cold and aloof like a museum exhibit. It doesn't declare power, but whispers of elegance. This jeweled masterpiece was not created to inspire awe in subjects, but to adorn a beloved woman. In this lies its fundamental difference from the crowns worn out of duty. It is not a weapon of dynastic diplomacy, but a poem written in diamonds to honor beauty, youth, and love. Although the tiara was crafted for Camilla's grandmother, its true, documented debut in the spotlight occurred much later. Let's fast forward to the 4th of July, 1973. This particular day was circled on the calendars of all London society. At the Guards' Chapel in Wellington Barracks, a wedding took place that the newspapers dubbed the Wedding of the Year. 25-year-old Camilla Shand was marrying the brilliant cavalry officer Andrew Parker Bowles. The guest list spoke volumes. Present at the ceremony were the Queen Mother, Princess Anne, and Princess Margaret. When the chapel doors swung open and the bride appeared, all eyes were riveted upon her. She wore an elegant gown by the London house of Belleville Sassoon, a sartorial embodiment of early 1970s fashion. But the crowning, most significant touch to her ensemble was the adornment gracing her coiffure. This was no diadem borrowed from the royal treasury as a special favor. This was a cherished family heirloom. On that day, the cubit shand tiara revealed itself to the world in a new light for the first time. It was no longer merely a jewel from the casket of an aristocrat from a bygone era. Adorning the young bride, bathed in the glow of spotlights and the flash of cameras, its delicate floral pattern shimmered with renewed vibrancy. It symbolized not only the bride's purity and youth, but also the continuity of generations. The tiara harmonized flawlessly with Camilla's presence, accentuating her innate elegance and instinctive sense of style. The choice she made was profoundly symbolic. By wearing her own tiara, Camilla was not signaling an aspiration to align herself with the Windsors, but rather proclaiming her profound pride in her own family and its rich history. It was a testament of respect for her grandmother, Sonia Keppel, and for her mother, Rosalind. The ornament crowning her head was not merely an accessory, but a tangible link connecting her to the formidable women of her lineage. The reaction was unanimous: admiration. Newspapers and magazines vied with each other to publish photographs of the radiant bride. And while the broader public saw only a beautiful young woman in a beautiful diadem, seasoned observers and connoisseurs of aristocratic lineages grasped the full depth of this gesture. On that day, the cubit shand tiara ceased to be simply an adornment. It became an integral part of Camilla's personal story, her distinctive calling card, presented to the world for the very first time. It marked her initial, and therefore most unforgettable, triumph. Following her marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles, the tiara seemingly receded from public view for long decades. It remained tucked away in the family jewel box, a quiet talisman patiently awaiting its moment. That moment arrived after 2005, when Camilla, upon marrying Prince Charles, the heir apparent, became the Duchess of Cornwall and a full-fledged member of the royal family. The entire world expected her to now fully immerse herself in the Windsor vaults. And indeed she did, appearing at state receptions adorned in legendary diadems loaned by Queen Elizabeth. Yet, it was precisely at this juncture that the true golden age of her own personal tiara began. Despite having access to such monumental pieces as the Greville tiara or the Delhi Durbar tiara, Camilla continued periodically to select her own cherished family piece. This choice spoke volumes, more eloquently than any words. In a world where every jewel is interwoven with state protocol and dynastic plays, the cubit shand tiara represented her personal domain, an anchor connecting her to her own identity, to the life she lived before she became Her Royal Highness. By wearing it, she seemed to declare, "This is me, Camilla." There was also a purely practical dimension to this choice, one that revealed the wearer's character. Unlike the massive, weighty royal tiaras designed primarily to impress, her personal diadem was remarkably light and comfortable. For a woman destined to spend long hours at diplomatic receptions, this comfort was no small consideration. This pragmatism and aversion to ostentatious pomp are an intrinsic part of her public persona, and the light, floral tiara became its perfect jeweled embodiment. One of the most poignant chapters in the tiara's history unfolded in 2006. On that day, Camilla's daughter Laura was to be married, and for her bridal ensemble, she chose that very same diadem, the one her mother had worn 33 years prior for her own wedding. Camilla, by then the Duchess of Cornwall, lent her daughter her most precious possession, not diamonds from the royal vault, but a piece of their very own family legacy. This gesture transformed the tiara from a mere personal adornment into a potent symbol of continuity for the women of the Shand and Cubit families. Thus, the cubit shand tiara became Camilla's signature piece. Its appearances at official functions were rare, yet always significant. It became the favored choice for occasions where she sought to blend her official standing with a deeply personal touch. If the Greville tiara spoke of her position within the monarchy, the cubit shand tiara narrated the story of her roots. It was not a talisman witnessing grand historical events or political triumphs. Its golden age is, instead, a chronicle of quiet devotion. It became a silent witness to its wearer's personal odyssey, from a young bride within an aristocratic family to the beloved partner of a future king, and finally, to Queen Consort. And at every stage of this journey, the tiara remained a beacon, signaling that even at the pinnacle of power, one can, and indeed must, remain true to oneself. At first glance, the story of the cubit shand tiara appears pristine. It lacks the bloodstains, tales of curses, or sensational thefts that so often accompany renowned jewels. But the shadow enveloping this piece runs far deeper and is, ironically, far more aristocratic. It doesn't cling to the adornment itself, but rather to its very foundation, the origins of the capital used to create it. And the name of this shadow? Alice Keppel. Alice Keppel, Queen Camilla's great-grandmother, carved her place in history as King Edward VII's last and most influential royal mistress. Their connection was far more profound than a mere romance. Intelligent, tactful, and charismatic, Alice was his confidant, trusted advisor, and the hostess of a salon where, at times, pivotal matters of state were quietly resolved. The king, exceptionally generous, lavished her not only with funds, but also with shares and extravagant gifts, which ultimately formed the cornerstone of the Keppel family's colossal fortune. It was this royal patronage that enabled them to live lavishly and commission masterful jewelry from the finest artisans. Here, it's crucial to separate fact from conjecture. The king and Alice's liaison was no closely guarded secret. Within the upper echelons of Edwardian England, everyone knew of it, including the monarch's consort, Queen Alexandra, who exhibited remarkable tolerance towards her rival. The scandal and whispers revolved not around the affair itself, but around its sheer scale and Alice's profound influence over the monarch. No document explicitly states, King Edward's funds were used to purchase this tiara. Yet, there's equally no doubt that it was royal munificence that enabled her daughter Sonia to receive a jewel of such caliber as a wedding gift. The sparkle of these diamonds is, quite literally, a direct reflection of the brilliance of the British crown. Yet another, more subtle enigma exists. Once the tiara passed from Sonia Keppel to her daughter and Camilla's mother, Rosalind Shand, its public footprint vanished. Rosalind inherited the jewel after her mother's passing, but seemingly never wore it in public. Not a single known photograph exists showing her adorned with this family heirloom. Why? Was the tiara simply not to her taste? Or was her post-war social life simply less active? This lacuna in the jewel's history adds a certain mystique, compelling us to ponder the destiny and preferences of the woman who safeguarded it for an entire generation. Thus, the mysteries of the Cubit Shand tiara are not Gothic dramas, but rather the subtle fabric of human destinies. On one hand, it's a story of how the sparkle of a forbidden, yet widely known royal love materialized into diamonds. On the other, it's the silence of an entire generation, the enigma of a woman who owned this treasure but chose to leave it tucked away in a jewelry box. These shadows and whispers do not diminish the tiara's value. Instead, they deepen its narrative and render it more profoundly human. The tiara's first era quietly drew to a close, without newspaper headlines or the auctioneer's gavel. It happened the moment the jewel passed from its first owner, Sonia Keppel, to her daughter, Rosalind Shand. The era of Edwardian opulence, of which Sonia was a daughter, gave way to more restrained times. The tiara, born for grand balls and courtly receptions, transitioned into the hands of a new generation forged by the Second World War, a generation with a distinctly different perspective on luxury and its display. The chapter tied to its creation and original intent had concluded, and after that, the adornment receded into a long life in the shadows. For an entire generation, it seemed to simply cease to exist for the public eye. Camilla's mother, Rosalind, was a woman of formidable character, devoted to her family and country life, yet far removed from the bustling high society scene. Not a single photograph of her wearing this tiara has survived. This silence sparks questions. Was it a conscious rejection of the sparkle associated with her mother's world? Or simply, did her life present no occasions for such an adornment? Either way, the tiara transformed from a public symbol of status into a quiet family secret, safeguarded in a vault. A second, far more poignant end of an era arrived in 1994. That year, Rosalind Shand passed away, and the tiara descended by inheritance to her daughter, Camilla. This was no joyous transfer of a treasure. It was an act of inheritance, sealed by the grief of loss. From that moment, the floral diadem ceased to be merely a beautiful object for Camilla. It transformed into a tangible link to her beloved mother, a physical embodiment of memory. Every facet now reflected not just light, but also a personal history of love and sorrow. It was precisely this long period of obscurity and quiet family history that proved decisive. It forged the jewel's character. It ceased to be merely an expensive aristocratic accessory. Having journeyed through the silence of one generation and the tragedy of another, the tiara became imbued with a profoundly personal, human significance. The era of its life as an exclusively private family heirloom was drawing to a close. Ahead lay a completely new, dazzling destiny. The second birth of the cubit shand tiara was not a sudden flash, but rather a slow yet steady dawn. After 2005, when Camilla became the Duchess of Cornwall, the world held its breath, anticipating a new era of royal jewelry spectacles. And when, at a diplomatic reception, amidst the sparkle of historical Windsor regalia, the familiar floral glow unexpectedly appeared, it landed like a bombshell among the discerning few. The tiara had returned to the global stage, but in an entirely new status. This was its triumphant comeback, and context changed everything. If, at the 1973 wedding, the tiara was merely an adornment for a bride from a noble family, now it represented the personal choice of a woman at the very heart of the monarchy. The world saw not just a beautiful diadem, but a deliberate gesture. By wearing it, Camilla was not competing with Queen Elizabeth's legacy, she was subtly complementing it. This was a fresh interpretation. The cubit shand tiara, once a symbol of aristocratic origin, had transformed into a symbol of personal identity. Each of her appearances in this diadem became an event, meticulously analyzed by experts. They noted how its delicate and airy design contrasted with monumental royal jewels, highlighting Camilla's inherent elegance and pragmatism. An adornment created as a hymn to youth and carefree spirit had gained profound depth in the new century. Now, it spoke of loyalty to one's roots, of maintaining individuality under the pressure of the strictest protocol. The culmination of this second birth came in 2006, when the tiara crowned the head of Camilla's daughter Laura on her wedding day. This moment definitively cemented the jewel's new status. It didn't merely return from obscurity, it became a living, active relic, a symbol of female lineage and continuity, now visible to the entire world. From this point forward, the tiara's value began to grow exponentially. Its worth was no longer measured solely by the weight of its diamonds and the skill of the jeweler. To these were added the most precious component in the world of high jewelry: provenance, the history of ownership. A tiara worn by a future queen, and now a queen consort, is no longer just an ornament. It is a historical artifact on par with those preserved in the Tower of London. Its market valuation in hundreds of thousands of pounds sterling becomes a mere formality, for its true historical value is now beyond calculation. So where is this treasure today? The answer to that question is both simple and nuanced. The cubit shand tiara does not rest behind bulletproof glass in the Tower of London, nor is it listed in the catalogues of state treasuries. Its guardian is Queen Consort Camilla herself. The diadem resides in her personal collection in her own jewelry box. This fundamental distinction defines its unique destiny. It belongs not to the crown, but to the woman who wears that crown. However, its current status extends far beyond a simple personal adornment. From the moment Camilla became Queen Consort, the tiara transformed into a historical artifact. Every time she appears in it publicly, she writes a new chapter in its story. It is no longer an accessory, but a living participant in contemporary monarchical chronicles, an item meticulously observed by historians, jewelers, and millions of people worldwide. The cubit shand tiara exists at the intersection of two histories: the personal history of the Shand family and the public history of the Windsor dynasty. As for its monetary worth, financial valuation here gives way to historical significance. Gemology experts cite a sum exceeding £250,000, but this is merely a starting point. Its true value is composed of several invisible layers. The first is the impeccable Edwardian craftsmanship and the sheer quality of its diamonds. The second, more substantial, is its flawless provenance, a history of ownership tracing directly back to the renowned Alice Keppel. But the most crucial layer, the one that truly renders it priceless, is the Camilla factor. The moment a piece of jewelry becomes the personal favorite of a reigning queen consort, its price on any hypothetical auction block becomes utterly unpredictable. It ceases to be merely a tiara. It becomes Queen Camilla's tiara. Therefore, any monetary valuation is purely a formality. Its true worth, cultural and historical, is immeasurable. It has become part of the national heritage even while remaining privately owned. So why, with access to the boundless treasures of the British crown, does Queen Consort Camilla choose her own tiara time and again? The answer now shines clear. It's not merely about the carat weight or the delicacy of its design. When she dons the Windsor diadems, she fulfills her royal duty. But when she wears the cubit shand tiara, she remains truly herself. It is her anchor, her quiet manifesto of personal history in a world dictated by protocol and dynastic tradition. This ornament is more than just a precious jewel. It is her jeweled passport, with each facet recording a chapter of her own life. It is a link to a great-grandmother who graced a king's court, an homage to her mother who quietly safeguarded the relic, and a symbol of love for her daughter who continues the tradition. Unlike state regalia, which proclaim power and empire, this tiara whispers tales of family, continuity, and deep roots. The cubit shand tiara is the perfect illustration of how an inanimate object can absorb human passions and fates to become something immeasurably more. It began as the embodiment of the Keppel family's ambition and prosperity, then served as a symbol of aristocratic union, weathered an era of obscurity, was transformed into a tangible memory of a mother, and ultimately was resurrected as a mark of personal identity for one of the planet's most recognizable women. Its narrative proves that the true worth of a treasure isn't defined by its initial cost, but by the lives it has touched. The brilliance of these diamonds today isn't the cold gleam of an investment asset. It is a warm, resonant glow, reflecting love, pride, sorrow, and a quiet, decades-long self-assurance. It no longer belongs to a single family. It belongs to history itself. The story of the cubit shand tiara is a testament that even in the shadow of the world's most magnificent crowns, its own unique and equally beautiful blossom can grow and flourish. This is quiet, yet profound evidence that true power resides not in the heft of royal regalia, but in unwavering loyalty to one's own heart, and therein lies its true, enduring grandeur.